Hello, friends. I hope you are having a wonderful week so far, and you are welcome to another episode of Intentional Living with Emlah. Hi, Lara.
Hello, Emlah. How are you?
I am good. So, if you're listening today and you have ever wondered whether Eat the Rainbow is just a cute little Instagram face or it's actually powerful medicine, this episode is for you. We're going to break down how colorful plants and fiber, and not just good for digestion, but for foundational health and your microbiome, cardiometabolic health, hormone balance, and long-term disease prevention. Okay, as an integrative pharmacist who blends pharmacology with nutritional science, we're translating today evidence into practical, doable shifts that can make your week, like something you could do right now. So if you want to understand how food can function like your daily prescription for vitality, and fiber being the most underrated nutrient in modern healthcare, you got to press play and you got to listen till the end, because today's woman and guest is somebody right after my own integrative heart. Welcome, Dr. Zakaria. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. Thank you. And I'm very excited about today's conversation. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Eat the rainbow. I see. So a little bit. So we had so much feedback on your protein show. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. If you did not listen to the first episode we had with Dr. Lara on this podcast, you need to go back and listen to that, because that is a preface to this. Listen to the protein podcast episode before you listen to this. Dr. Lara is not just a pharmacist. She is a bridge. In my mind, she is a bridge. I don't care what she calls herself, because she is, in my mind, she is an integrative pharmacist. She's a nutritionist. She's a professor. She's a public health professional specializing in functional medicine. And when I say integrative, I truly mean integrative, because she holds a PharmD, which is the same degree that I have, a master's in nutrition, which I don't have, a master's in public health, which I don't have. And she actually uses all of these degrees, okay? She blends all of these together. And when I say whole person health, whole human on whole system, she focuses on this pillar of intentional living. The first pillar, when I talk about pillars of intentional living, the first thing I say is nutrition. And that's where she falls. That's what we're going to be talking about today. When we talked about protein, she gave us a breakdown on protein and why I should stop the podcast and go and make myself some eggs right now. Macy literally texted me right after the podcast and she goes, I am going to eat eggs in the next 30 minutes because you guys sold it. And I said, yes, we did. And you are welcome for the protein that you're going to have in your life. So today is all about fiber, Dr. Lara. Tell us, when we talk about Eat the Rainbow, where do we start?
Well, when we talk about Eat the Rainbow, what we are referring to is not Skittles, unfortunately, but we are actually talking about the different colors in plant foods that give the variety of phytonutrients, polyphenols, antioxidants that make plant foods so powerful, right? And before I go any further, I just want to be clear. This is not one against each other. We're not saying protein is better. We're not saying fiber is better. We're not saying fat is better. This idea that there's one good macronutrient, there's a bad macronutrient, that was all marketing. And we're not falling for that anymore. All of these
We're smarter than
nutrients
that.
are relevant. Yes, all these nutrients are relevant. It's about quality and proportion. That's what it comes down to. So I believe that when we focus on protein and then we focus on color, it is the most straightforward, easy way to get that baseline of those macronutrients. If we recall, macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And so we're focusing now on color. So why do I lump color in with carbohydrates? Because they come with fiber. Plant foods, think about it. Beans, lentils, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, all of these come with a bunch of fiber and different kinds of fiber. And we should talk about why that's important. That's really relevant as well. They also come with a diversity of colors. Basically, we have these plant compounds. They're called phytonutrients or phytochemicals. These phytonutrients, there's probably about conservatively 35,000 of them. And we actually think it might be closer to 50. And some researchers think it might be actually even more than that. But there's all of these different compounds, many of which we haven't even identified yet, that live in these plant foods. And to an extent, they lend color to that food. So the reason a blueberry is blue, the reason that a raspberry is red, the reason that kale is green, the reason that a carrot is purple, or if you have heirloom carrots, that it's yellow, or did I say a carrot is purple? A carrot is orange. But if you have heirloom carrots, I was already thinking about the heirloom carrots, that the heirloom carrots can be different colors like purple or yellow, is because of the concentration of these phytochemicals that give it color. The brighter the color, the more intense that phytonutrient is. And the combinations of phytonutrients create different combinations in the food. So they create all the different shades that you see in those foods and in the different varieties. Why is that important? These phytonutrients act as messengers. They essentially communicate to our body about what's happening in the external environment, because the plant develops these as a way to protect itself. It's the way that the plant communicates with its environment. And when it builds up its fortitude, and then we go on and we eat that plant, those compounds are living organisms that are coming into our body and communicating to our body and telling us what's happening outside and how we can best fortify our own body. And it does it through a process called epigenetics. And that is a fancy word basically for that compound talking to our genes through our microbiome. So if you think
you
of those
mean I
old
can't just
operators,
sit? Yeah, I can't just say, oh, I have a genetic predisposition for this, and then I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. So you mean
no.
epigenetics?
Epigenetics is the tool that you have to change the way your genetics express. So it's not what you're born with. It's more like a software update. It's like when your iPhone updates, it's more like a software update.
Love that analogy. I love that.
Right? And essentially what's happening is the microbiome is acting as the translator. If you think of those old operators, when you had to like ask for a line, the microbiome is actually acting like that operator. It's taking that information, it's then changing how it's metabolizing, and then it's sending messages to the rest of the body. And part of its job is to tell our genes which genes to turn on and which genes to turn off. And what that means is that if you have a particular gene that is more likely to cause damage or disease, it's going to turn it off. And if you've got a gene that's more likely to cause health and repair, it's more likely to turn it on. And that is powerful. That means we own the mechanism to repair our body, to heal our body. And I think that is incredible.
That is powerful. That is 100%. So phytonutrients are what we should be going after. We should not be demonizing a particular macronutrient like fat or carbohydrates or this. We should be looking at our food and saying, how pretty can our food look? So when you were describing phytonutrients, the word antioxidant came into that sentence. What is an antioxidant?
An antioxidant is a firefighter. That's how I think of it in my brain, right? So you have a fire. You get your fire extinguisher, you call the fire department, and we turn off that fire. Oxidative stress is essentially that fire. It's a natural thing that happens when the body is doing its job. It's, doing metabolism. It's firing up your mitochondria. It's making energy. It's making life. But there's a byproduct to that, and that is called oxidative stress. And when we can neutralize that oxidative stress, it's not a big deal. It's like when I turn my stove on, I turn it on, I turn it off, no big deal. Now, if that catches fire and it starts to damage other things, I accidentally turned my stove on, I forgot to turn it off, the towel caught on fire, now I've got a problem, right? Now I need to call in the fire department. I need to grab my fire extinguisher, and I need to shut off that fire. That is the job of the antioxidant. The antioxidant has to neutralize that stress. Now, if I had enough antioxidants to begin with, my towel would not have caught on fire, right? We would not have had a problem to begin with. But Now that I have this added stress, this added fire, I need to bring in more antioxidants to help to neutralize that fire. So the more that we focus in on foods that are naturally high in antioxidants, the less likely that we're going to have a fire to begin with.
The reason I ask this is because the foods that are high in antioxidants are the foods that are high in phytonutrients.
Exactly. And as if that wasn't enough,
Yes,
we have our own antioxidant factory in our body.
in our body.
Biochemically speaking, we have a process that's called the antioxidant response element. And we basically have these triggers, these mechanisms that we can set off to upregulate our internal mechanisms so that we can also turn off the fire. So not only does the food itself contain natural antioxidants, but when we eat these foods, these phytonutrients, these phytochemicals also turn up this pathway, and then our body then doubles down on it. So now we've got the sprinklers turning on to turn off the fire, plus we've got a fire extinguisher, plus we've got the fire department coming.
And we might not even have had this fire in the first place if that system was upregulated and we're taking good care of our body.
Correct. So it means that no matter where you are on your journey, maybe you're a person who's already paying attention to your food, you're eating a ton of colorful food, you focus on antioxidants, you're doing your best to balance your meals, you probably have a good antioxidant reserve. But
So,
maybe you're somebody that just walked into this conversation today and said, you know what, now I'm inspired. I want to shift what I'm doing. It's never too late. It's just a matter of focusing in and making sure you get enough of these antioxidants in now, not only to help put down the fire, not only to help reduce the damage, but now we're also going to improve the repair because of the epigenetics.
I love that. I love that. So now we are looking at all these plants that have these phytonutrients, putting color on our plate. The color comes with carbohydrate. It comes with a tiny protein. It comes with some vitamins. It comes with all the fun stuff. It comes with all the good things that the cells in our body needs. It
Yes.
comes with a ton of fiber.
Yes.
So it comes with fiber. It comes with soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. What is the difference between soluble fiber and insoluble fiber?
Essentially, it's whether something is wet or dry. That's really what it comes down to. Soluble fiber is wet, insoluble fiber is dry. I think of soluble fiber as kind of the mushier fiber. Think fruit, chia seeds, things like that. And I think of insoluble fiber as more like a dry net, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a loofah sponge that you use or one
Mm-hmm.
of those like net scrubbing nets that you might use on your skin, right? And that's literally the difference in their job. One's job is to bring in liquid and kind of cleanse the inside by creating more water pressure. And the other one's job is to kind of scrub the inside. Both of their job when it comes to the colon is to move things through the digestive tract. But soluble fiber tends to feed the microbiome. And so it feeds that balance of bacteria that ultimately then communicates with our food, that ultimately then helps to improve our epigenetics and reduces inflammation and does all that good stuff. And what we want is a balance. And honestly, I don't even like saying soluble versus insoluble because there's so many different categories of fibers that are across the board that we need to get combinations of. So I talk about rainbow because if I get people to eat more color diversity, that's something you could see with your eyes. It's very easy to see what colors you're eating, assuming you're not colorblind, right? It's very easy to see that diversity. But if I start to tell you to get a variety of fiber, that's not something you could see with your eyes. But when you get that variety of color, you're going to also
Get
get
it.
a variety of different fibers at the same time. And it's that combination of fibers, the different kinds of food for the bacteria, and also the differences in the wet versus dry that helps to keep you regular, that helps to maintain the right balance of bacteria in your gut, and that helps your body basically make all of the things it needs to make from that interaction.
Perfect. So I'm thinking about how we eat in America. We don't get enough fiber.
98% of Americans do not get enough fiber, and this is according to the CDC. or the NIH.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Let me say that again.
98% of us are not getting enough fiber.
Let me say that again.
Percent.
98% of us are not getting enough fiber in the United States.
All right. So let's just pause right here. In addition, I'm like, put fiber on your plate, put the vegetables on your plate, put the natural foods on your plate, put the rainbow on your plate to get this fiber. Fiber is not only important because when we say fiber, we're thinking of, moving stuff down in the colon.
Mhm.
We're talking about insulin resistance. We're talking about insulin control. How is fiber helpful
Thank you for bringing
in
that
blood
up.
sugar regulation?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people don't realize, yes, obviously, if you eat something that's very sugary, your blood sugar is going to go up. But we can actually blunt that by making sure that we have fiber in our system prior to eating that. So one of the ways that we essentially can balance our blood sugar is by ensuring that we get enough fiber in, especially at the beginning of a meal. Right? Now, you could take a supplement. For example, you could take psyllium husk prior to a meal, and that's actually been shown to help balance out blood sugar, what we call postprandial blood sugar, or the blood sugar spike that might happen at the end of a meal. And that can be really helpful. You can also duplicate that by either eating a salad before your meal, by having a soup that has a good fiber in it before your meal, or by eating the vegetables on your plate first before you eat anything else that might be a little starchier. So let's say you have a plate of potatoes and maybe some broccoli. Eat the broccoli first. The potatoes aren't going to spike your blood sugar as much. In fact, eat the broccoli first, then eat the protein, and then the potatoes won't spike your blood sugar. And hopefully you won't be as hungry. So maybe you won't eat like all the potatoes like I tend to do, right? So that way it slows you down as well. It starts sending signals to your brain of satiety, because that's the other thing that fiber does. It helps us feel fuller faster, right? So the other aspect of this is that when we eat more fiber, we're actually stimulating the production of the same hormones that stimulate that GLP. We think of GLP as a medication. It's not a medication. It's actually a class of peptides that actually acts like a domino effect that triggers some of the hormones in our brain that tell us to slow down, we're getting full. So when you eat fiber, in particular, when you eat fiber from foods that have a little bit of a bitter to them, like an arugula, for example, or a kale, that really helps to upregulate that satiety response. In other words, that helps to upregulate that cascade of hormones that sends messages to your brain that says, actually, I think I'm getting a little full now. We can start slowing down. So in multiple ways, fiber helps to blunt that blood sugar balance. And sometimes it's a matter of timing. Sometimes it's a matter of the amount of fiber that you're including in your meal. And sometimes it's the source of that fiber that you're eating.
I cannot say this enough. So as I just have been reading about fiber over the past years, I changed my routine. So in my workout, so I work out every morning. I wake up, I go down to the basement, I do my 30-minute workout before I come and wake up my children. And in my workout water, I put a scoop of fiber in it. So that way I'm getting at least 11 grams of fiber to start my day. And that's how I start my day with that. So, and it just makes me feel really good. And it just helps my bowels. It helps me feel my mood has improved with that. I'm going to put a link to our fiber boost in the show notes. So just one way of adding fiber to your plate, one way of adding more fiber to your day, because it's just so important. We cannot do without. So we'll have a link to Fiber Boost, Emlah Naturals Fiber Boost on there. Before we go, we talked about how important fiber is for insulin control and starting that cascade of the GLP-1 in the body and helping us feel fuller faster. This podcast is sponsored by Journeys, your path to intentional wellness. Most health problems don't start overnight, and neither does wellness. With Journeys, you can take charge of your health before you have to. Every cell in your body is speaking to you. But when we ignore preventive medicine, we wait until those cells are screaming. Journeys helps you listen to the whispers. There are 3 different journeys to choose from, each designed to meet you where you are in your wellness path. The Core Wellness Journey for $199 offers a foundational look at your overall health, perfect for getting started and measuring 66 biomarkers. The Advanced Heart and Metabolic Health Journey for $339, measures 111 biomarkers, and goes deeper into cardiovascular, metabolic, and thyroid health for a more detailed picture. The comprehensive longevity and hormone journey costs $469 and is the most complete view, including hormone, nutrient markers that support energy, balance, and healthy aging. This measures 120 biomarkers. Each journey includes a personalized recommendation, one-on-one care from your pharmacist, and follow-up support to help you turn results into lasting intentional change. You just won't get data. You'll get guidance, accountability, and a partner in your wellness journey. Intentional living means paying attention, staying curious, and taking steps towards the health you deserve. Start your journeys today. Click the link in the show notes. Dr. Lara, here's what happens. People come into the pharmacy and they're like, oh, I just bought this fiber on Amazon. I just bought this fiber online. And I hear fiber is good for me. And you just bought any kind of fiber. I'm like, not all supplements are created equal here.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about the importance of getting a good quality fiber.
So one of the main things when we talk about supplement quality in general, there's a larger conversation to be had. So I'm not going to go follow that, chase that rabbit right now. But what I do want to really make sure that we emphasize today is that there are synthetic fibers and there are natural fibers. And synthetic fibers might create the bulk needed to have a bowel movement. Like I think of Miralax, for example, that does create the bulk needed often to create a bowel movement. And if that's something that you're relying on to have a consistent bowel movement, I would say, okay, but what we're not doing is feeding the microbiome. And over long-term use, that can change and shift your microbiome in a negative way. And so we want to try to actually get you onto a more natural fiber. So food is always first. I always want to prioritize food and rainbow, right? But from there, if you are adding a supplement, we want a supplement that is natural fibers that ideally has either a targeted fiber for whether it's something specific you're addressing in your microbiome, or it's a broad set of fibers that's going to feed the microbiome equally. Right? And so we talk about prebiotic fibers, we're talking about natural fibers. And I just want to make sure that that's clear for everybody because you're not going to get the same GI benefits if you are using a synthetic fiber.
Perfect. I love that distinction because a lot of times people come and they're suffering from acute constipation and we have a prescription for Miralax or your GI doctor has said take Miralax as a treatment, as something to resolve an acute injury or something that we need to resolve this constipation and get going on with life. But on a daily basis, a natural fiber is what we need to feed the microbiome. We need those prebiotics. And you don't have to be choosing because there's Emlah Naturals Fiber Boost, which I use every day. Then, Harmony, you can insert the previous part now here. So,
by the way,
perfect.
11 grams of fiber
Yeah.
is already more than the average American is getting every day. So you're already winning. And you haven't even had breakfast.
You heard Dr. Lara. I'm winning. I mean, I don't have long hair. I would have flipped my hair right now, but I am winning in fiber. The fiber game because I'm doing 11 grams already to start. And that doesn't even include my arugula in my base of my food because my new thing is the bitters. And you can't go wrong with bitters, arugula or kale. Somehow they have to find their way on my plate. So that way I have that on there and I'm making sure that my beautiful, lovely, smart microbiome is taken care of because I believe that that's I'm not supposed to be picking most important parts of my systems, but I believe that I have to take care of my microbiome because they do take care of me.
Absolutely. And if somebody's listening to this and you're inspired to put more color on your plate, whether it be on your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, right? Take a picture of it and tag us in it, please. I would like to see your beautiful, colorful, and bitter plates if you have them.
Let's make Instagram beautiful and colorful with all the phytonutrients. I think that that's a wonderful idea. All right, let's head on to another importance of fiber. I'm talking about we have a lot of people. We know that cardiovascular disease kills more people than all the cancers put together. We just finished a heart health month. And to me, heart health month is every month because every day we have somebody coming into the pharmacy with, oh, they just had a cardiovascular event. How can we prevent that?
Absolutely.
Are the ways in which fiber can help us move in the right direction?
So heart disease does impact the heart, but it actually starts in the gut and the liver. And we do not understand that enough, I think, when we're addressing heart disease. This is not about saying that statins are good or bad. Sometimes statins are necessary and they can absolutely be life saving in certain circumstances. However,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is several steps down and it's not root cause enough, in my opinion. By the time we're using a statin, we're just addressing the amount of cholesterol that's being made. We are not addressing the source of that cholesterol, and we're not addressing the inflammation that actually causes the cardiovascular event. So, in order to do that, we've got to go back to the basics. We talked about the antioxidants that are in the rainbow, right? We talked about the microbiome and how the microbiome talks to and interacts with fibers and with those phytonutrients. But we haven't talked about the liver yet. And the liver is one of I feel like it's an underdog. Like we don't really appreciate the liver nearly as much as we should because of all of the things she's responsible for. She helps us balance our nutrients like vitamin A and iron. And she helps us make sure that we are balancing our blood sugar, and she's responsible for making that cholesterol. She's the one that decides when we make LDL and when we make HDL. And what is misunderstood about LDL and HDL, we kind of oversimplify it and we say LDL is bad cholesterol, HDL is good cholesterol. Just increase your HDL, lower your LDL, and you're all good. It's not that simple. The reason that those are even being made is in response to the injury that's happening in our cardiovascular system, in the arteries and in the veins and in the capillaries. So it's a response to the injury. And so when the liver is under stress, when our blood sugar is out of balance, when we've got a lot of environmental toxins like heavy metals and plastics and pollutants that the liver is trying to handle, and we've got disruptions in the microbiome, any and all of those things or any combination of those things will change the way and the quality of that LDL and the HDL. So one of the ways that we can actually improve our cholesterol does include eating more fiber. To an extent, fiber helps to grab some of those cholesterol components and it removes it from the system. But more importantly, because it's impacting the microbiome, because it's improving inflammation, because it's helping support the liver and some of the products of the liver, and because it is overall balancing blood sugar and delivering antioxidants, it's helping to reduce our cardiovascular risks. So it's a combination. It's not a simple plumbing issue that we have to clean up. It's a combination of factors. And again, we're talking about increasing fiber, but what I really want you to think about is increasing color and variety, because that's ultimately what's going to have the largest impact. Your fiber content will go up, and simultaneously, your antioxidants will improve, your nutrient density as a whole will improve, your microbiome will improve. And then when you combine that with protein and you increase muscle mass, whoa, your metabolism is
We're
going to
winning.
skyrocket. Winning.
We are winning. We are winning 100%. So my goal is that my plate is going to look as beautiful as myself. How beautiful do I want to be? I want to be very beautiful, and I want my plate to be very beautiful. And diversity and variety is the spice of life. I want my plate to have as many beautiful colors. Like when you go to do your nails and you look at the nail, like all the nail colors on the wall,
Mhm. Uh-huh.
and then you have a difficult time choosing what color. And I usually go, I'm gonna just stick with green. Don't do what Emlah does and do her nails green every time. Just pick different colors all the time. And that's what we're going to put on our plate. I
That's
mean,
exactly right. That's exactly right. So the research suggests that over the course of a week, about 30 to
yes,
35 different colors is the goal to maximize microbiome diversity and variety and volume, right?
30 to 35 across the week.
Correct. And that sounds like a lot, right? And we're talking about 30 to 35 different colors, shades, and sources. But herbs and spices count. So when you open up your
Ooh,
cabinet and you
yes.
grab a few different combinations, you've
Turmeric,
already got
rosemary. Yes. All of them.
Yes.
Paprika,
Yes.
oregano,
Exactly.
everything. Yes, please.
All of it counts, and that
Yes.
counts towards that variety and diversity. So we're underutilizing herbs and spices sometimes. So double down on those instead of going to the grocery store like I do and then just by habit grabbing the spinach or just grabbing the arugula. These are fantastic options. Don't get me wrong. Alternate, switch it up, grab the variety pack. Every week, grab something different, right? That way you are changing up what you're getting in. Something comes in different colors. Apples come in green, sometimes they come in red, sometimes they come in yellow. Change up the color. Even though they're still apples, that difference in color signifies a difference in the phytonutrient content. So that still counts too.
Fantastic. 100%. And this is something that I do. You're welcome to adopt this. I work with Ronnie. Okay. Dr. Ronnie is my pharmacy manager, and she is so good at putting different things on her plate. She will just be heading out to the groceries and she will be buying something new and talk about it at work. And she goes, oh, I tried this new lentils. I tried this new lentil soup. I tried this and I put this in it. And so she will share the recipe. And just because she said that, it inspires me. And here am I trying it at home the next day. Here am I trying it at home the next weekend. So talk to people who inspire you to put the right foods on your plate. Talk to people who are eating something else. We have the Institute of Functional Medicine phytonutrient chart in the pharmacy, and it's all divided by color. You have all the red, the orange, the yellow, the purple. We have it all in there. And this is what we do at home. We say, this is the goal. We're going to put something on our plate this week that we did not have on our plates last week. So let's find something that we did not eat, and we're going to add it to our plate, and we're going to make it fun and fantastic. I try to do when I'm making smoothies with my son. I say, okay, here's the goal. I'm the mom, so I call the shots. So I'm going to put the base. I'm going to put the base, and the base is going to be maybe spinach or arugula or kale, and that's, the boring old grain stuff, which is always at the bottom. But now you pick. Put something in here that we did not have, something that has a fun, fancy color, and you get to name the smoothie. You could name it, timpcha a la something or some French fancy name. And then you got to finish your cup. You got to finish it. And then before you tell me, you cannot rate the podcast if you don't listen to it. So when you listen to this episode, you give us a review, but you can't give us a review before listening to it. So I tell him you got to finish your smoothie before you give me a review of it. So that way we finish the whole cup of the smoothie.
I love that you brought that up, because I think this is a great way to engage kids in eating healthier without making it, like a chore, right? Because kids are usually really excited, one, about color and variety and novelty, right? And so you're introducing something new and allowing them to experiment triggers a lot of that fun playfulness for them. Kids also usually love to eat whatever they made, whatever concoction they made, right? They love to eat it. Like, we'd make mud pies and we still ate those. Right? So this is a very much like a great way to engage kids in eating more healthfully by giving them the guidelines and the direction. One of the things that I've had some parents try is take their kids to the grocery store, have them pick out something new, have them free reign in the produce aisle, have them pick out something new, and sit down and find a recipe together to build on. And sit together in the kitchen, have them help you out. Kids of any age, of any skill level in the kitchen, can learn to level up their skills. And if you yourself as a parent, you're not comfortable in the kitchen, what a beautiful way to demonstrate that you're willing to learn and that you're willing to experiment. And remember, if you want your kids to experiment with food and to be a little bit more adventurous, you have to mirror that for them and show them that you're willing to be more adventurous. And I found that to be a really great way. It's a great bond building experience. It's a great opportunity to teach them about food without lecturing them about it, and getting them more involved, feeling more autonomous in their body because they get to choose rather than be told what to eat. And so when they feel more autonomy, they tend to be more willing to try new things and to experiment and expand.
I love that. I think that is the foundation that we need, rather than waiting until it's too late to start correcting from the top. I think it's nice to build from the bottom. And I've had this. I always challenge my son. I'm like, you know what? I can make smoothies better than you. He goes, no, mom, I got this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see what you got. So
and you make it fun, right?
It's
Instead
so
of
fun.
making
It's
it
so
an
fun. And then his
argument,
brother
or
and his
you're not
sister,
getting
they're
up
like, oh no,
until you
I'm
finish.
better at that. And he calls himself the smoothie king, and he's like, I'm better at that. And so it's really fun, and that way I don't get to make the smoothie. Now he makes it, so that's
He gets to make
one.
it now. It's one less
Yes,
thing on your plate, first of all,
I'm a smart mom.
and
Yeah,
again,
so one less
it's
thing
a
for me to do. Yeah, hey,
it's a
yeah,
positive interaction versus this, like, back and forth or tension or argument over what to
yes,
eat and who's making
yes.
what. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. But now, and that's the thing that we have. Okay, we have a way to include the vegetables because I've just figured out my son will not eat if I cook kale or make it, make it in a soup or anything and put it on the plate. He's not attracted to it. He loves it raw, and it's actually better for him. He's getting more phytonutrients that way. Is getting more nutrients that way. So he gets in his
So hold
smoothie. He
on,
gets
I
his
gotta correct
vegetables.
you on that. I gotta
Yes.
correct
Yeah.
you on that. We used to think that raw always meant more nutrient density. So it depends, actually. It turns out some
Tell
foods,
us more.
yeah, some foods actually, when we heat them up, we increase not only the amount of those nutrients, but their bioavailability and how well our body can absorb it. So the trick
Ooh.
is if you cook something and you see that a color brightens or gets more intense, that usually means you've activated new phytochemicals. And so the peak is when it is at its brightest. So if you've ever maybe
You're
steamed
saying that, and I'm
broccoli,
trying to think of what it is. Who is
yeah,
it that we cook and it gets brighter?
think of broccoli. Broccoli's a great example. If you've ever steamed
Yes.
broccoli, it's got that green color, but then when you
Mm-hmm.
steam it for about 3 minutes, right, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
even less, it gets that
Yes.
beautiful bright color. That means we've activated some of those phytonutrients within the broccoli.
That is
And
exciting.
we have made it a little bit more digestible. The fiber's a little bit easier for us to actually
Break
digest,
down.
especially the insoluble fiber that's in there, right? So I don't want people to
That's
think, oh my gosh,
impressive.
I
Yeah.
have to always eat something raw for it to be good
No.
for me. Sometimes cooking it is actually better. What you want is for it to taste good. That's my number one priority because if it doesn't taste good, you're not going to eat it.
Something
Number
that you
one
actually
priority.
eat.
Yes, it has to be something that tastes good for you. And that might mean drizzling some olive oil and lemon on there, adding a sprinkle of salt, adding more herbs and spices, whatever
Yes.
makes it delicious for you. So that's my number one goal. And then number two is trying to keep it before it gets too wilted, too soft, where the color starts to drag again. That's not good. The other, you know what? While we're dispelling some
Myths.
myths,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. I see a lot of people that think that they can't eat
Yes.
frozen vegetable. Frozen vegetables, one, sometimes are more affordable, and
They're
two, they last
practical.
longer. They're practical. And so stash your freezer with frozen vegetables. If you want to get fresh, but that way you're never out of vegetables because they went bad or you didn't get to the store this week.
I love that. Yes. Stock your freezer with those frozen vegetables because they are harvested at a peak and they
Yeah.
have a ton of phytonutrients. Now you talked about, when you were talking about spicing up your broccoli to make it really appetizing for you, like the best phytonutrients are the ones that you actually eat. I was thinking about adding all the things around. We don't want to be monotonous with our food.
Hmm.
We started this by saying eat the rainbow.
Hmm.
So adding protein, adding carbohydrates,
Hmm.
and adding all these macronutrients on our plate. This is how we're going to control our hormones. This is how we're going to control our mood. This is how we're going to control our weight.
Yes. Yes.
It
I
doesn't
don't
get better
want
than
to
that.
I don't want to underemphasize the importance of fats or the fact that we have vitamins and minerals in our food. Those things are important too.
Girl, that's another
But
episode.
that's another episode.
You're
But
going into another episode right now because those important
no,
fats are needed.
and we can get to that. If we want to talk about, I'd love to talk about fats because it's another fascinating conversation. And it's a macronutrient that has gotten a lot of negative
I
attention.
know.
And for so long,
Bad
people were
media.
avoiding it. Yeah. And the fat phobia is still rampant. I still see it today. So we need to dispel that too. But I focus on protein and color because to me that's very easy. And usually if you can get that down, right? If you're consistent with that, then you're going to have a much easier time adding in a sprinkle of olive oil, adding in more fish because that's part of not only healthy fats but also a good source of protein, right? Then the density of your vitamins and minerals automatically comes with the produce and the protein that you're eating too. right? So it all comes together. And when we eat our nutrients together, they work better. Food is meant to be eaten as a whole. Nutrients aren't meant to be divided up into individual isolated nutrients. The benefits are best when they come together in a symphony, right? And they work together, they collaborate together, they absorb together, they approach our cells together, and they do it collectively in a very just intuitive way. So when we're eating our food in combinations like that, when we're combining color plus protein, we're not only addressing our individual nutrient needs, but we're also coupling them together the way that they're meant to be and the way that they're best absorbed and used in the body.
Well, when somebody asks me to define whole person health, I'm just going to take this exit of this clip of this part of the episode and tell people that this is truly what whole person health is. Nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients work together. This synergistic, beautiful. That's why somebody comes to me and goes, I just want B12. I'm like, how about a B complex? We need all of them. We
Yeah.
need our macronutrients. We need our fat. We need our protein. We need our carbohydrates. We need our vitamins. We need all our micronutrients on board. And I have really enjoyed this. I think that and we need to share this episode. We need to share. We had so much feedback on the protein episode with a focus on protein, and now with this focus on fiber and phytonutrient. I think that this is really important. 98% of the people in your life do not consume enough fiber. Those are the people that we need to share this episode with. Share this episode with 98% of the people that you know, because that is the 98% that's not consuming enough fiber. And we know that fiber, because we're coming from way down here, can only do us better. Fiber can only help us improve our mood. It can help us with our cardiometabolic function. It can help us with our digestive tract. It can help us with the mood. Just the fact that how much serotonin that is produced in your gut. They say what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut as opposed to Vegas. What happens in the gut goes to the rest of your body. So we need to feed that microbiome. Dr. Lara, I cannot thank you enough for being on this podcast and sharing all that knowledge with us. And what are we talking about next? What's going to be can you give us a teaser? What's going to be coming up next on the next episode?
But today we talked about how whole foods and how all the different nutrients in foods are connected, just like all our systems in our body are connected.
Yes.
And the next episode, we are going to talk about how we can use those foods, how we can use what we've just learned about protein and fiber to then address our blood sugar balance. And we're going to talk about continuous glucose monitors or CGMs and why those might be a helpful tool, and then how we can use our diet to help us improve our blood sugar, reduce our risk of diabetes, and ultimately improve our heart health.
I can't thank you enough. So please listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Share this episode with anybody in your life who thinks you need, or who you think needs more fiber, and that is technically everybody. And continue to live each day with intention. Thank you very much, Dr. Lara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.